met my ex-girlfriends, I'd say I have terrible taste. Do not use that in the cold open. I'm Arizona Family political editor Dennis Welch.
Dennis, fake news Welch. Try to tell the truth.
And this is the Politics Unplugged podcast.
Dennis, if you have a problem with substance abuse, I am more than willing to talk to you anytime you need.
Well, welcome back to another edition of the Politics Unplugged podcast. And this week, I am honored to be joined by Stan Barnes. Legend down at the state capitol. Former lawmaker turned lobbyist. He's been down there for a long time and has forgotten more about politics than Colin will ever know.
Yeah, amen to that. I know, Colin. It's absolutely true.
So I want to thank you very much. And, I think the point here is I wanted to talk to you about some of the politics going on with the county because, man, these races are getting super interesting. And typically in the past, these are the kinds of races that were just snoozers. Nobody paid attention to this stuff. But over the past, few election cycles, they've gotten a lot of interest. So, I want to talk about that. But first, I do want to ask you about some just shenanigans going on at the state capitol.
Shenanigans? Is that the right word?
I think what you might say is jackassery.
Jackassery at the state capitol.
So they voted to take a break? The House?
Yeah, 20.
How can they do that?
One third of the Casa de Arizona is going to Israel on someone else's money, which is not unusual, but it is unusual right in the middle of the throes of one of the most difficult sessions anyone's seen.
Yeah.
On the front door of an election. That
$1 billion budget deficit
that could decide who's the majority and the minority. The good news for the Republicans and the Democrats is it's a bipartisan trip, so you can't blame one party over the other. Uh-huh. But you can blame the House. The Senate's not going. No one in the Senate's going. The House moved to adjourn for 9-10 days. They wanted to skip all next week, and the Senate, in a rare moment, debated that and said no. We're not going to go along. You may know, Dennis, because you're an astute reader, that the Constitution of Arizona will not let one chamber adjourn for more than 3 days without the permission of the other. So the House needed permission from the Senate to adjourn all next week. The Senate would not give it.
Good for them.
And you don't see that every day.
So what is the point of this trip? And why do they have to take it now?
Why they have to... I'm stammering. It's supposed to be a diplomatic relation. It's paid for by someone that wants to promote Israel with American politicians. Given what's happened in the Middle East, you might understand that.
Sure.
The timing, I don't know. I mean, why now?
Why not go after the session? Oh, wait, they've got elections to run.
Why not go in June? Oh, wait. If you're running for office while you're on a junket, it might be bad.
Yeah.
It might be bad. It's happened in Arizona.
Yeah.
That someone was a sitting senator, was on a junket, and the guy campaigning back home dethroned him on the issue of he's on a junket and I'm here with you. And I bet some of that comes out.
I mean, I would think that the average person, the real people, the RPs, real people of this world, would be like, go do that on your own time. I mean, regardless what the issue is, and obviously a lot of emotions around what's happening in Israel and that part of the world. I get that.
Right.
But your job is to be, getting a budget done. There's $1 billion, $850 million budget deficit that could be growing this year and next.
Right. So add them together.
Yeah.
But amazingly enough, you sound like a state senator. I know it's a shock to your audience, but that was what's said on the Senate floor when they voted to not adjourn. They said, we have work to do. What's wrong with these people? So, I mean, there's real differences here.
You know what they could do? They could just, pass a budget and then go anywhere you want.
Exactly.
Go anywhere you want on your time.
On someone else's money. Yeah, I know. It is extraordinary. And I think perhaps... I have not talked to any of the 20 going about why, but I'm thinking they believe that the nature of the Middle East and all that it is the fig leaf that covers
Yeah.
and will satisfy. But I'm not sure politically if they have opponents, and a lot of them do. I would think this would be a problem.
Yeah, because it's just weird. Because to quote, paraphrase the great philosopher Spicoli.
Yes.
You know, if we sent you to the legislature and then, you know, you go off and do this, aren't you going on a junket on our time?
Mr. Hand. Yes. That's what Spicoli would say. And that's what a voter might say as well. So I imagine it won't be the last time we've heard of this. We'll hear about it in mail, direct mail.
Yeah.
In August. No, when's our primary? July 30th and November.
And what happens to some of the bills then? Because, I mean, what I understood is that there were some pretty harsh words that were said in public about some, coming from senators about the House, just as the Senate bills that have just been passed are moving over to the House for consideration.
For love and nurturing.
For love and respect and nurturing for passage. And like, you know, they're the people who were most outspoken, like what happens when the House gets back from their vacay, you know, and some of these bills, you know, you were in the legislature once.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's two practical outcomes here.
Okay.
One is that the House and Senate now are in bad terms, and there's personal hurt feelings by the soft egos that are involved around that place. The other is there's a calendar, a schedule. And next week is essentially a dead week in the House, and nothing will be accomplished. Yet the timing will keep going. In other words, this is going to have a real impact on the amount of legislation. Some bills are going to die because they didn't get in the queue and do their thing. Now, that might be a great thing, and bills dying, because maybe we don't need that law. But there's going to be a real consequence.
Yeah, it's crazy because back in my younger days, and as an old newspaper guy, when I first was sent down to the Capitol to cover these folks, they always told me, like, just don't plan to take any vacation until after July 1st.
Yeah, right. And no, they didn't even do holidays back then.
Yeah.
And now they do some holidays, and now evidently
17-day holiday.
And if you have a trip to the Middle East, hey, why not?
As long as it's paid for by somebody else.
Amen. Not taxpayers of Arizona. That's the righteousness.
Yeah. Oh, good Lord. Okay. All right. We've gone off on a tangent here a little bit. Let's bring it back now. This week we saw Justin Heap, state lawmaker representative. Justin Heap, he announced that he's going to be running for the recorder's office. Now, there's that makes six Republicans running for that primary. You've got one Democrat on the show, Tim Stringham. He is running for the nomination there. Let's start with the primary. How do you see this play out? Because what I'm curious about is, you know, Heap is part of the Freedom Caucus. He's part of that MAGA movement. Does someone like Donald Trump reach all the way down into the localist of local races? I mean, you know, you can't get any more local than a county race, except if you want to go down to a Board of Education election or maybe a city council seat.
Right.
Does he reach down and maybe endorse somebody in that primary? And what's the effects of that?
Yeah, I expect. It sounds almost incredulous that is the premise, but that indeed is factual. And yes, I think Trump actually will endorse in the Maricopa County recorder's race, the former president of the United States. I think he will. Yeah. I mean, for love him or hate him, this man seems to have no limit on his energy given toward this kind of politic. And he's doing this all over the country. And if you're in a six-way, you see there's six people in that primary?
6 people, man.
Registered. If you're in a six-way race and one of you can claim Donald Trump as your endorsement, that's going to be meaningful in a Republican primary. And once you're out of the Republican primary, now you're in the great wide open of the general election. Yeah. And every now and then we get Democrats win county seats in a Republican county because the Republicans are so split or they're so dislikable, like Arpaio was when the last sheriff beat him. So this might be the best thing ever for Democrats, but putting them aside, it's really the next phase of what has been happening at the county level, all about elections being stolen, fraudulent, done wrong, something like that. So Richer has been not only under
And he's gotten a lot of attention, positive media attention, for standing up to Donald Trump.
Yes, well, amen to that too. But he's had to have like bodyguards around him. There's been so much noise and threat to his person and his office. But to his credit, he's standing in there like a happy warrior and is probably going to win, because he's got more name identification than anyone else in that race. And to this day, name ID is the most single big driver when people vote for you.
Yeah.
And they forget. And they most people, Dennis, unlike you and me, they are outside living productive, tax-paying lives. They probably buy insurance, all the normal things.
Yeah, do all the stuff.
We're not paying attention to county races and the inside game politics.
Yeah.
When they get there, they say Richer, and they say, I think I know that guy.
Yeah.
That means I vote for that guy.
But a Trump endorsement could change that.
What if you don't know about it?
It's going to be covered.
It's going to be covered. Okay, so one day, 2 days, people see it.
And then in a primary,
Heap has to have, if he's the guy that gets that endorsement, if he has to have the money to tell his story. And now keep in mind, there's going to be $800 million spent on political media, much to the benefit of you and your fat salary at this television and radio station. And so how do you break through at the county recorder level, one county recorder level? I don't know that anyone will ever hear Heap and his message unless he has a lot of money.
But in these primary elections, these are much more farther right, more engaged people in politics. They might know that, and it might create, that situation where it separates the signal. It gives it a signal to certain MAGA voters out there.
That's right.
And cuts through all the noise.
True enough. And it is actually, free through social media to tell your story. So now I'd rather, if you're Heap, you'd rather have his endorsement than not, no doubt.
Sure.
I mean, you want that endorsement. It might end up being Heap and Richer in that sense. I'm an insider. I can't tell you who else is running for that job. I mean, I really thought it was just Heap and Richer. It might actually be only those two factually. The others might just be names on the ballot. Yeah. But
statements of interest being pulled is different.
Right. They got to get signatures.
April 1st, we'll find out who's on the ballot.
Exactly. Right.
But yeah, it's going to be interesting because that primary again is so different than a general election, which I would think Richer would be a lot stronger in the general election, who would even appeal to a lot of Democrats who are grateful of the positions he took in standing up to Donald Trump.
Doubt. If he wins the primary, he might as well just keep his ornaments on his desk at his office because he's not leaving. He'll win the general. There's no doubt about it.
Okay. Okay. So let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about the county attorney in Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell. She first kind of got a national, some national exposure because she was the expert witness that helped Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh get on the court.
Right.
So she helped, in a sense, Donald J. Trump get one of his Supreme Court picks on the high court. However, she is now despised by a lot of people in MAGA land, because, she is, not sided with some of the election conspiracy stuff out there.
Right.
She, Rachel Mitchell faces a primary challenger in Gina Godby here. I mean, is she going to be vulnerable in a primary with these Republicans? Can she be beaten in the primary?
I think it's all possible. I mean, this is a difficult position for a very good county attorney. I mean, in my own opinion, Rachel Mitchell is a great county attorney, and she's got the right temperament, the right experience. She's doing a good job in that role. And but as you say, there is so much tumult and foment in the right side of the Republican spectrum, which you label MAGA land, which is appropriate, in that Make America Great or Make America First wing of the party, which is, as we're seeing nationally, is about 2/3 of the Republican electorate. It falls into that category. And they're hard to satisfy. I mean, they need to be continually fed. And one of the blind spots that group has is they have this marriage view of politics that you could be with them 99 times, and the one you're not, all of a sudden you're an enemy.
Well, that was McCain. McCain was 80-90% Republican all the time. Go look at his record.
Oh, totally.
Don't trust. Hey, if you're listening and watching, don't trust Stan and I.
Right.
Go through and look at his record. 80-90% of the time, he was with Republicans. But when he went against his own party, made a lot of news.
Yeah, that's right, and that's Rachel Mitchell's problem is that, and combined with Gina Godby here ran last time.
Oh yeah,
and did not win, so she's got that built-in ambition and some name ID. I might add. I mean, that name Godby here has been at the county level in races before. And so I'm trying to remember in live with you right now who that was.
It's a last name you don't forget.
I know,
either.
you don't forget that name. But
you don't
happened.
forget Godby here.
I know. What a great name for politics. But no, I mean, you combine an ambitious person who wants to get in and has a window and has a constituency she can talk to. But I think Rachel Mitchell's earned her stripes. I mean, my goodness. And it shouldn't be that kind of job. I mean, it's a political job because that's the way we've set it up. But it really should be a crime and justice, temperance, temperament kind of thing, judgment kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me started. I think there's a lot of offices that should be appointed.
At the county level.
County and state level.
Yeah, right, fair enough.
I mean, there's a lot of those offices on the state county levels, except the mine inspector.
I was going to say the
Keep the mine inspector.
You're not going to move me on that. No way. We're electing that person.
That's another, put that down for the future, Colin. We're going to have just an entire conversation about the mine inspector.
The one in 50 states. That's ours.
Deep dive into the mine inspection.
The shaft, the deep shaft, the deep well. We're going to go down there. Rabbit hole.
Some other day. Let's move on to that the sheriff's office race. I mean, we got the guy who was appointed Sheriff Russ Skinner. He is running as a Democrat. He's a lifelong Republican. He switched parties the day after Paul Penzone the former sheriff announced that he was going to be leaving at the beginning of this year.
Yes.
Day after that, he says, well, I want to be appointed. Law says that you have to appoint somebody with the same party affiliation as the current office holder. So I'm going to switch my party the next day. Like, pretty obvious and blatant about that.
I think that's how Steve Gallardo, the supervisor, felt. It was obvious and blatant. So Gallardo didn't support that.
Yeah.
Only the 4 Republicans did.
Yeah. Is this going to work? I mean, if he faces a challenge, a Democratic primary challenge, are you going to get through that?
That's a great question.
There's some great questions for Mr. Skinner. There's some great questions for Mr. Skinner.
Right. I mean, what are you?
Yeah.
An opportunist or a Democrat?
Yeah.
I mean, and so he's. I don't know that on the Democratic side of the aisle, they may be content to let him run because after all, it's not a position Democrats hold very often in the modern era. Because they generally are viewed as less of a whale 'em and jail 'em kind of party. Yeah. And if you want the law and order guy with the badge, you want a Republican. That's the way that the electorate has felt until Penzone beat Arpaio for other reasons.
I mean, in a world long before Donald Trump, Democrats, a lot of folks hated Joe Arpaio. Skinner was a deputy under Arpaio. I don't know what his job was.
I feel bad for Skinner. He's probably the most qualified.
He seems like a really nice guy.
He does. And the first thing he said was, "It's not a political office."
But he says it's not political. But I'm sorry, but it is.
It was.
You can say, like, I'm not a politician. Like, that's nonsensical. Yeah, do you need votes to keep your job? Yes. Then you're a politician.
It's a political world. So he's got to go the Democratic gauntlet, assuming he wins.
Assuming first two, he gets on the ballot.
He's got to get on the ballot, too, right? He's got to get signatures.
Yeah.
And which is a pain in the ass. I mean, we got to change that someday.
Yeah.
The signature thing. It is... It's bad. Anyway, that's a whole nother rabbit trail.
We'll do that show right after Mine Inspector.
Yeah, after you can do them together, maybe. But put everybody to sleep. But no, now we've got the Republicans invigorated on the sheriff's side, and so there's going to be this like reclaim it kind of thing.
It's all fascinating. And, let's move on. Just in large part, I mean, we could spend time talking about Debbie Lesco running to replace Clint Hickman,
and she's going to win that, by the way.
She's been the congresswoman in that district and represented it in the state.
The House member, she's liked, all that.
Yeah. What do you think it looks like at the end of the year? Do you think Democrats right now, it's a 5-member board, 1 Democrat. Do you think Democrats could win a seat or two?
No.
Okay.
Population being what it is, no, it's not going to happen. That's been a 4-1. That district is drawn for Steve Gallardo. And the rest of Maricopa County, no matter how you move people around, is a Republican territory. And so, some districts are different than others, but they all are Republican, and I can't imagine it being any other than a 4-1. Now, we're having a couple of interesting primaries in the Board of Supervisors side. Like Michelle Ugenti-Rita is running for the Board of Supervisors, the former senator, the former candidate for, what's she run? Secretary of State? Right?
She ran for Secretary of State.
And how soon we forget. And now she's trying to run against Galvin.
Yeah, which is
and she's trying to make him out to be not America First enough. And she wants to run.
Well, a lot of people, when she ran for Secretary of State, didn't see her as not make America first.
There's some irony there. Yeah, but she certainly is in on the something wrong with the elections thing and wants to hammer that. And Supervisor Galvin, not so much about that. And so I think she wants to exploit that particular lane. And Jack Sellers in the more of the Chandler area, he's up and he's got competition along the same lines. The guys that were there when the state Senate almost arrested them for not yielding up documents.
Lest we forget.
I mean, lest we forget how dramatic that was, that the sheriff almost went down and put those guys in handcuffs, save for one vote on the Senate floor. Paul Boyer. Paul Boyer would not go along. None of the Democrats would go along. So there wasn't 16 votes.
And they were so mad at Paul Boyer back then. Side note, they should all be like sending him gifts and very grateful for him. He really saved their. So we can say he saved their ass.
He did. He saved their ass. You can say that on this show.
Yeah.
And their political ass. Yeah. He really did. And it's not the echo, but it's chapter 2 of this same storyline. Yeah. So that those guys, Clint Hickman decided not to run because he still want to put up with this shit anymore. I don't blame him. I can say that on this show.
You can say that because
I want to speak the truth on this show.
Say it, don't celebrate it.
All right, good. I just want to know what the boundaries are. And then Mr. Gallardo's running again. He's probably going to be unopposed all the way.
Yeah.
Debbie Lesco is going to run in Hickman's seat and just swallow that up and win that thing. And then there's a real primary, a real race in the Bill Gates spot.
All right.
So it's going to be very interesting to watch.
All right, we're going to have to wrap it up right there, man. I really appreciate it. Before I let you go, though, one random question. Tell me about the first concert you ever went to.
Wow. It's going to reveal my age, but it was Elton John at Damage Theater.
No way.
And yeah, it was like 1982 or something. I did see, the one I want to talk about is I saw the Rolling Stones in 1983 in ASU Stadium. And George Thorogood.
The one that's in the movie. They made the movie.
Yeah, the one they made the movie out of. And they were like,
I'll have to look for you next time I watch that
2 hours late to coming on after Thorogood left.
Yeah.
But it was still a great concert. It was awesome. I had great seats. I knew somebody who knew somebody, and I got great seats. Taught me about politics.
Wow.
I mean, I was right. When Mick runs up into the audience, he runs up one of the rows. I could touch him. He was that close to me.
I'm going to have to look for you.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look for you.
I have hair, though, in 1983. I don't have it today. So if you're looking, look for a guy that has hair is thinner. But you'll see me.
That has that Chandler look about him. Yeah, that
Chandler boy look about him. Yes. Look for me. I'm in there.
All right, man. Appreciate it. Great talking with you.
Same.
Welcome back to the back half of the podcast. This is Colin with Dennis.
Hello.
Switching it around a little bit.
Doing a little different here.
Yeah. Because I wanted to ask Dennis a few questions.
Oh, boy. I hate being on this side.
Yeah. Yeah. Which was a little bit like what you experienced yesterday. Anyway, you interviewed Kari Lake.
Yeah, we did. We did. And first of all, I want to point out that we have the entire interview online.
Yes.
And you can see a big chunk of that interview on the TV show Politics Unplugged, which airs in the 5:30s a.m. p.m.
Yeah, 5:30 a.m. Sunday on Channel 5 and 5:30 p.m. on Channel 3, and this drops at about 5 on Sunday. So at this point, you may have missed it, but I believe we now put the segments online and the entire The entire interview is online.
Yes.
It's no secret that interviewing Kari Lake is different from most politicians. She tends to be a bit, would you say, combative?
Yeah. It's always a little bit interesting going in there because what she does is, she doesn't like the questions. She, kind of, is known for attacking the media.
Yes.
And that's what she does. And, to be honest with you, I just wonder, her supporters, they're going to hear this. If they hear this, I doubt that a lot of her supporters are listeners of this podcast, but we'll probably find out.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering though, if the casual people, voters out there, people who casually pay attention to politics, just start wondering if this is just kind of shticky at this point.
And when you asked her about the election and the dispute over the election, she accused you of trying to bring up old things when she's all about the future. And at one point accused you of trying to relitigate the election. She also said she couldn't answer things because she is litigating the election. Yeah. She has spent the last 2 years in court fighting the election results.
There's probably an argument to be made, like, you don't want to talk about it anymore, drop the lawsuits.
Yeah.
And stop saying and stop talking about elections at meetings, at events. We constantly see some of this stuff out there. She goes out on stage, like just recently at the annual state committee meeting for the Republican Party. She was talking about elections at that point. And, to me, it's a sign that I think, there's some polling out there. Somebody is in her ear saying you do need to move on.
Yes.
Because she doesn't want to talk. It's like it's core to her brand. I brought this up to her. Unless you see it differently, I'd be interested in what you think. I think when you think about Kari Lake, it is core to who she is.
I think election denial is probably A1 with most people at this point, given everything that has transpired since the election.
Yeah, I encourage you to go and check out the interview. It's not a masterpiece in interviewing. It's not going to be shown in Interviewing 101, but I think it is important because we did get into the issues of the recent fight with Meghan McCain because Kari Lake has been extending an olive branch to the family out there, trying to let bygones be bygones. But she had attacked the family of John McCain in the past. She's played that off as saying, well, it was a joke, it was in jest. But we wanted to ask her about that, and she's saying that she is truly extending an olive branch to them. And people want to know who she really is, like who is the real Kari Lake. In that interview, is like, she doesn't want to say much. She doesn't want to say much about McCain and the family anymore, or the so-called rhinos, and she doesn't want to talk about elections. But like, who are you?
Yes,
she switched her position. She softened her position on abortion. It's a lot of things, and these are I think legitimate questions, political questions. I think that even her supporters would want to know answers to, like, where are you now?
Yeah,
because as much as she's saying I meant that we drove a stake through the heart of the McCain machine, or whatever comment that she says was in jest, and
then later saying any McCain supporters, we don't need you, get out of here.
Yeah,
which
get out
was
of here.
What, a week and a half, 2 weeks before the election.
Yeah, and I just think, look, it turned a lot of people off.
Yeah,
on one side of the political spectrum, but it also turned a lot of people on the other side of the political spectrum. Like, let's not forget, John McCain, before he passed away, was unpopular with the far right of his party. They had censured him beforehand.
Yeah.
He was not the lovable figure on that side of the aisle, so they'd censured him years before, but he was able to win election after election. So there was always some appetite for that on there. But now, as she's trying to make this pivot, I wonder if every vote, it's a question. Every vote she gets toward the middle of the political spectrum, she loses on the farther right of the spectrum. I wonder if there's if that's kind of a thing.
And clearly, she's working hard to move to the middle of the spectrum. I don't know how effective that can possibly be when you've staked out the far-right position so thoroughly and aggressively. Also, side note, she did extend the olive branch to the McCains. I don't think Meghan McCain had any interest in that at all.
No, and let's be real. Am I a fan of Meghan McCain? I wouldn't say I am. Do I dislike Meghan McCain? I wouldn't say that either. She is who she is. She was on on The View in the morning for a while, and it was kind of a media personality now. But I don't know a whole lot about her. But I do know that she loved her dad.
Yes.
And, Kari Lake had made some comments about her dad that she didn't appreciate. Kari Lake aligned herself very closely with Donald Trump, who, as we all know, famously said that he likes his war heroes who weren't captured.
Yeah.
Kari Lake, it says some other things about the McCain family member. And I understand, I think there's been some reporting somewhere that Lake was personal friends with the McCain family. So there's that whole personal thing. But, why would Meghan want to accept that olive branch at this point? Unless there's some real more contrition or something out there. I mean, she loved her dad.
Yes.
And, I don't know.
Yeah. I get the sense she didn't necessarily think it was terribly sincere. But yeah, the response was "no peace, bitch" to those who missed it, which made it fairly clear where she stood on that.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, church people, go check out the interview. Let us know what you think. You can call Colin directly. You want to give him your cell phone number?
No, that's good. That's good. I'm all right with that. We can avoid that.
But yeah, check it out. Hopefully it helps.
Yeah, easyfamily.com.
Yeah,
for the whole thing.
What else to talk about with this? You probably saw the piece in the Republic. Ron Hansen did a nice write-up on Cinema this morning, and basically the outline why Kyrsten Sinema is probably done for right now.
Certainly looks like it. I mean, she's running extraordinarily low on time to get signatures and get a campaign going.
Yeah, and she's just not spending. I mean, Ron points out in the piece how few staffers that she has on the payroll. Things like that are important, and he compares them to other senators who are running or maybe haven't announced. And I think even Mark Kelly is he's raised more money than her in the fourth quarter, or has more staffers on his campaign than Sinema has at this point.
And he's not up. Yeah, I mean, we've been saying for weeks. She doesn't have the apparatus going right now. She's not gathering the signatures, but she's got the money where if she wants to, she could jump in and do that pretty quickly. Well, time's running out, and you hit a certain point where it doesn't matter how much money you have sitting there. You still need to get a lot of signatures to get on the ballot, and she hasn't done it. So, what is it, April 8th? Or did that move up?
It's April 1st now.
April 1st now.
They moved it up for the calendar change.
So she's got until April 1st.
And she needs about 42,000 signatures. And if you do it the old-fashioned way on paper, you want to get that cushion.
Yes.
So you want to get about 60,000 signatures.
Or 600,000?
60,000.
Or 60,000? Okay.
Yeah. It's so you want to get that bump from 42,000. You need to be qualified to ensure that you don't lose a lot for disqualification for duplicates, or maybe they weren't registered voters and all that other kinds of stuff. You want to get about 60,000. Now I have heard some arguments that she could go online and you can get those signatures online, and she could do those pretty quickly. Maybe she could, maybe she couldn't. I don't know. It seems like to turn that on and just go get 42,000 signatures on something like that would still be a challenge.
Yes.
Again,
she's got the money to shortcut some things and make it easier, but she's got a month.
Yeah.
And notably, the polls would suggest that it's a losing battle.
Yeah.
She's not looking great in the polls.
Yeah. Even the best polling shows her 10, 15 points behind the front runners.
Right. Which is to say, she would be spending a lot of money and going to a great effort for a battle that she does not appear likely to win, and I don't know that she has any interest in doing that.
Yeah. So, all this, it means it's shaping up really for, a really interesting matchup between Kari Lake and Ruben Gallego in the general election.
Yeah.
Man, that's going to be a very, very hard-fought race. I mean, you've got Kari Lake, as we know, is a tough campaigner, a real political talent, too. I mean, whether you like her, whether you don't, she is a real political talent. And then Ruben Gallego, who is a real fighter.
Yeah.
He's not going to duck any debates.
No, he's not.
And that would be a fascinating debate if that happens in the fall here.
Yeah, I think she would. I think there's probably general agreement that she would be facing a stronger opponent than she faced in the governor's race. Katie Hobbs was not, and I don't particularly mean this as a shot at Governor Hobbs, but as a candidate, she was not viewed as necessarily the strongest.
No, she's not the strongest. She was not the strongest candidates. I mean, to me, a lot of people would read that as her win was more of a reflection on how bad the other candidate was on the positions.
I think that's probably pretty accurate, and I don't think that's what you're facing with Ruben Gallego. I think he will be a formidable opponent in a Senate race.
Is it formidable or formidable? I never.
Depends on how pretentious you are, I think. I went with formidable, but you do you, Dennis.
Is it posthumous or posthumous?
Again, I'll go posthumous there, but
sorry, being a pretentious prick. Can I say prick?
You just did.
Okay, cool.
I'm not cutting it out.
But yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm sure we'll have much more. We'll have more podcasts in the future, in the near future, kind of breaking down that race, the Senate race.
Yeah, I suspect we may cover it at some point.
Yeah, some covered at some point. My apologies. I guess we need to mention that Kari Lake is still in a primary with Mark Lamb at Pinell County, who is running his campaign.
Allegedly,
somewhere.
Yes. Yeah,
somewhere.
I mean, it is
taking helicopter rides.
It has not been high profile.
No, taking helicopter rides along the border and all that other kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. So, but yeah, I'm sure we'll be doing that. But definitely in the near future, we have to do that deep dive into the mine inspector.
Absolutely.
No pun intended. Deep dive into the mine inspector.
Yeah, pun intended.
Yeah, pun intended. Screw it, pun intended. I knew what I was doing. It was intended.
Can we get him on? Is he an actual person?
Yeah, you want to get him on?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Yeah, I'm picturing like the old prospector from like a...
No, I was the Democratic candidate.
Is it?
Look it up, man.
Okay.
Look it up. The last one, it was like the one last... No, not the last one, because the current mine inspector ran unopposed, I believe. The time before that, the Democrat candidate looked like the Lost Dutchman.
Yeah. No, I'm expecting the mine inspector to be like overalls, big scraggly orange beard and like a pickaxe at all times.
Yeah, man. I mean, the guy, and the one guy the time before that was Joe Hart. He was the mine inspector for 16 years. I mean, somehow he was. I forget the explanation. He avoided term limits. Huh. So he was just able, like, year after year.
Can you avoid term limits if no one else wants the job?
Yeah, right?
If no one else is running?
Like, his big idea, man, was, filling up all the abandoned mines in Arizona with used tires, car tires.
FEMA signing off on that?
Dude, let's just say the Sierra Club had a bit of a problem with that. The environmentalists had a slight problem with that.
Yeah, I get that.
And then one time there was we had live local late breaking here some afternoon. Somebody had fallen in a mine. And, they got the mine inspector on to talk, to do a live interview throughout this. You picture the chopper shot. You're down, you see the firemen, police, all that stuff around this hole or mine.
Yeah.
And then they get Joe Hart. Joe Hart's talking and,
It's a moment in the sun.
Moment in the sun, man. And, they'd ask me beforehand, it's like, what can we ask him? I go, ask him about his plan to fill up all the mines with tires.
Kid wouldn't have fallen in if it was filled with Michelins, man.
And man, they did. On live television, man, you got Joe Hart, which is a good old boy, Joe Hart. It was really good. Joe Hart, and he's asked about the tires, filling up the mines, and he goes, "I took a lot of flack for that one, but had I been able to do that, we wouldn't have had this guy fall in a mine." Can't argue with the logic.
No, it's solid. Yeah.
Anyway, look for that exciting podcast and many more.
Yeah.
From Politics Unplugged.
Yep.
So, anyway, anything else we want to talk?
I don't know. Yes, Dan for first concert. You got your first concert, or is that gonna? Was I not
Quiet Riot?
Quiet Riot.
Come on, feel the noise, baby.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I don't remember a lot from that. I was pretty young. A lot of hair metal. I grew up in Burlington, Iowa, southeast corner of Iowa. And I always tell the story. I always add the addendum. The Atlantic Monthly in print one time described my hometown during an Obama campaign rally that was held there as quite possibly the dirtiest river town in America. My hometown.
Excellent. Yeah.
I read that.
Yeah,
Tears in my
match.
eyes. But yeah, a lot of hair metal bands back in the day came through there. But Metallica did play there on their Ride the Lightning tour with Cliff Burton.
All right.
And they were the special guest opener, which means they opened up the show, the first band on stage. And it was a lineup that included Armored Saint, Raven, and Wasp.
And the opener
was Metallica.
All right.
There you go,
that's
man.
going back a ways.
That's going back. I wish that was my first concert.
Yeah.
That's a cooler story than Quiet Riot.
It is.
Although
Yeah.
I will say the singer for Quiet Riot had a great hair metal voice.
He
That
did.
guy could
Yeah.
belt it out.
Kevin Dubrow.
Yeah, Kevin Dubrow. R.I.P., right?
I think.
R.I.P.-ish.
I'm not committing.
R.I.P.-ish.
I'm not committing.
God, if only we had magic boxes to look that up and information.
No, you look that up, and I will say my
Okay.
first concert was the Police with Oingo Boingo
You're just showing
at
off
the
now.
Fabulous Forum
You're showing
in
off now.
Inglewood,
You're,
California.
yeah, that's what you big city kids got to see all those cool
And
shows.
yeah, and being in Southern California, like we were really into Oingo Boingo at that point. So we were excited to see the Police, but like Oingo Boingo was a big deal. I went with my buddy and his big sister and some guy, and we got into an accident in the parking lot of the Forum. And so we were slightly delayed, and then we got in just in time to see Danny Elfman wave and say, "You've been great, good night." And then we saw the Police.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love the Police. They're one of my all-time favorite bands. Yeah. But yeah, getting back to Kevin Dubrow, the singer for Quiet Riot, died November 19th, 2007 at the age of 52 in Las Vegas. R.I.P. Kevin
right.
Dubrow.
Yeah. Well, that brought the room down.
God, what a bummer, man.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I just had to look that up. That's what
Yeah.
we're here to do. We're here to provide information, not just ask questions.
Yes. Saw the Police again on their, that was the Ghost of the Machine tour. Saw them again on the Synchronicity tour.
So yeah, but I was sorry to interrupt, but you were a SoCal kid.
Yes.
You must have saw a lot of cool shows growing
did.
up out there.
I did.
Because me being a small town Iowa boy,
David Bowie wasn't coming to
no,
Iowa.
he wasn't coming to Burlington,
He
Iowa.
came to Anaheim Stadium.
Yeah, I'm sure he
with
did.
Madness and the Go-Go's. Saw that one.
We were limited to whatever bands they could coax to come down and play on their way to Chicago or St. Louis or something like that. So there was that, or whoever played at the county fair. Saw the Beach Boys play there.
Yeah.
Kokomo, man. Kokomo era.
I think I saw the Beach Boys after an NASL soccer game.
Oh, boy. Oh boy. Guns N' Roses did play my hometown
All right.
before Appetite for Destruction blew up.
Okay.
So had it been a couple of months later, no chance they would have come to my hometown.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we got just about everyone. I mean, there are a few I missed along the way, but
Sure.
I saw the Clash twice.
Yeah, we agreed never to talk about that.
We did.
Oh man, that would.
But yeah, Bowie, Prince, saw the Kinks, which seems
A great rock and roll band.
great band. And I saw a lot of great bands in clubs. I saw like one of the first U.S. shows that Big Country ever did. They started like their first tour, and I
Big
think
Country.
they played.
The song Big Country off the album Big Country.
That would be correct. Yes.
Aren't you like? Aren't we obligated anytime anyone ever brings up Big Country? You're supposed to say that.
I think probably, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And they played that song twice because they only had one album.
Yeah.
It's pretty much what people want to hear.
It's what the people want.
They were great.
It's what the people
but,
want.
yeah, they had a limited repertoire at that stage.
Yeah. At that point, just play the chorus.
Yeah.
They don't even play. They don't even nothing. Just play the chorus over. Don't bore us. Get to the chorus, big country.
Yes. Yeah. So yes. I did not know about this until recently. When I was in high school, there was a roller rink in my hometown, and New Order played that roller rink. A friend of mine from high school looked me up on Facebook like 5-10 years ago and sent me the info on that and said, "My God, can you believe this happened? We were in town, and what?" And it was before we knew who New Order was. But they played this roller rink. Yeah.
Back in my prior life, I played a roller rink once in New Jersey.
Nice.
Yeah.
During the skating, or was it just for a concert?
It wasn't on the rink floor. They're skating. But I remember it was, I think, New Brunswick, and just a ton of people showed up at the punk rock show in New Brunswick or Newark or something like that.
Nice.
But we played, I distinctly remember played a matinee show in New York that day, and then busted ass to go over to New Brunswick and play it at night. That night, played a roller rink.
All right.
It's weird.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
It's weird.
Gig's a gig.
Gig's a gig, baby. I've played roller rinks, bowling alleys, you named it. Pizza parlors.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. I got stories.
Good. Well, let's get to them next time. Let's wrap this up.
Yeah, let's wrap it up, man.
Thanks.
You opened it. I was going to say you opened it, so now you got to close it.
All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week.
All right. Good night, everybody. Great shirt, by the way, Colin.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. You can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, the Google Store, or anywhere else you get your podcasts. See you next time.